Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the 5K iMac from 2017 and see if this particular Mac is still worth buying in 2024. Now, the thing I will definitely tell you about this particular Mac is that there is still a lot of capability and a lot to love about these particular iMacs. If you're not too familiar with iMacs in general, I will definitely tell you I love these devices a lot. I used to use an iMac, 5K iMac every single day for everything I would do. Since then, I've switched over to my MacBook Pro and using that one. But I will still tell you a lot of different ways these Macs are still worth buying. And even these 2017 Intel ones, there's still a lot of reasons to pick them up. But I will always say the M model MacBooks and M model Macs Apple has made since then might be better deals for some people. But the advantage, I would say, for these types of 2017 Macs is that one, they're Intel Macs, but also the other big thing is that they are the 27-inch models, and Apple still has not made or released a 27-inch iMac yet with the M chipset. So that might be one other thing to keep in mind with this particular device. So if you want to pick up some Macs that I would recommend buying this year, including this one, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of these particular iMacs, on the front side, you were getting a very, very beautiful and a very good display. I've always liked these displays a lot. I think they look very good, and I still think there's still a ton of capability for sure with this type of display. I'll be honest, these displays, I don't know how much, definitely they can make better displays and better looking displays and everything, but I think Apple did a really good job with this display when it first came out, and I still think for a lot of people, these things are still very much worth buying. They look very good. And I do think, like I said before, if I'm going through and buying some sort of Mac, these types of displays look so good for such a long duration of time. I think they're for sure still worth buying without a doubt. The other big thing too is that with these types of displays, they look really good throughout the duration of their time as well. These are Retina displays and these are 5K displays as well. So that being said, you have to remember that if you're going through and buying some sort of device, you're going to be getting a very, very good type of display here. The Apple logo in the center of that display can be kind of annoying for some people, but I like this thing because it has black bezels around it too. So it looks a lot more sleeker than you'd probably expect versus the current M iMacs, because Apple doesn't really, they put the white bezel around it. I feel like they shouldn't have done that, but they put the white bezel around it and that just makes it look a little bit weirder. I do like this display a lot more because it just looks so good, and it is easily one of my most favorite things going on for this particular Mac. You do get the stand at the bottom, but this stand isn't really like customizable, like it doesn't go up and down. You can kind of tilt it back and forth, but beyond that, there's really not too much else you can do with it. You can get a Visa mount stand, that's a little bit better, but for this one, pretty basic stuff. There's not really too much else going on here for the most part, but I will still tell you for a lot of reasons, this Mac, in my personal opinion, still looks good, and that stand is still very, very nice as well. Now, on the back side, you do get this kind of curved back a little bit. It's kind of what you'd expect. It's not a flat back like the current Macs. It is kind of a curved side, which I think is cool. It's fine for the most part. There's not really too much to hate on here either. You do get a little bit capability when it comes down to the back side. So here you're getting a couple things. One, you're getting a headphone jack as you normally would. So it's a normal headphone jack you can plug into the back of this particular thing. You're getting an SD card slot, which I love. I love having SD card slots. And even with my iMac I used before, this was the 2015 one, I love being able to just slide in that SD card in the back of that iMac, not have to worry about anything else. And it was a very cool thing I could have on that particular Mac. You're getting 4 USB 3 ports. So this is pretty crazy. Having those many USB 3 ports is actually pretty crazy because, although USB 3 is kind of the older one, it's still very, very nice to have that type of capability of literally just going through and just, plugging in a USB 3 port if you need it. And that is, again, by far one of my most favorite things going on for this particular Mac yet again. And then finally, this is the coolest thing. I love having this type of capability. You're getting 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, which for those of you who don't know are the USB-C ports. This is another really cool thing going on for this particular Mac, because not only do you still maintain and get those, USB 3 ports, but the USB 3 ports as well is insane. I love having that type of capability here. And this is by far, once again, one of my most favorite things going on for this particular Mac. You have to remember that if you're going through and getting this type of iMac, you're getting a device that is basically pretty solid in almost every single way. There really isn't that much to complain about here from a USB 3 standpoint. And the thing that I always have to keep remembering is that with the current M1 iMacs and M3 iMacs, there's versions of those Macs with only 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports or 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports or USB-C ports in general. This one, for having 2 USB-C ports on the backside, is pretty crazy because you're getting those with an SD card with 4 USB ports and with 3.5 headphone jack. And on top of that, you're getting a gigabit Ethernet port as well. That is a pretty crazy amount of I/O to have inside of this Mac. It's pretty crazy. That's one of my most favorite things going on for this particular Mac. Again, it's not like perfect or anything. I know there's a lot of issues with it too, but I really do appreciate this type of Mac and having that type of capability right within this device, because it just has like unlimited I/O and you can keep docking up more docks with it, and you can have dongles coming out from the backside. It's a really cool thing, and I'm actually a really big fan of the way this particular device holds up from that standpoint. So this in and of itself gets a thumbs up from me, without a doubt, for sure. Now, on top of that, with the insides of this particular Mac, this is either the hit or miss for a lot of people. So it is an Intel-based Mac, and the thing you have to remember about these Intel-based Macs is that, they're a little bit older than the M models. So, when you compare an Intel chipset to M chipset, at least from a Mac standpoint, you're definitely going to be getting a better experience on the, Mac with a, M chipset for the most part than the Intel one. But there are still some advantages of the Intel-based ones. So for one, from a performance side, maybe they're not that great, but you can still change out the amount of RAM that you have inside of this particular iMac. Like you can go through, and if you need more RAM, you can buy the extreme base model of one of these Macs, and you can just get, more RAM and interchange the RAM within this Mac. That is a really nice thing that you can do within this particular device. So that is a very cool thing that you have the capability of within this particular device, which definitely gets a thumbs up for me for sure. On top of that, another big thing is that with this particular device, you are still maintaining a lot of other things too. You can install Windows via Windows Boot Camp or Mac Boot Camp through this particular device, which is another really cool, asset to have. If I'm going through and if I'm getting a Mac, I would love to have the capability of installing full-fledged Windows operating system on my device. And that is precisely what's going on with this particular device too. So this is something that's really cool. I love having that type of capability. And once again, it is by far one of my most favorite things going on for this particular device when it comes down to it. On top of that, with this particular Mac, the performance is still actually pretty decent. You are still getting that Intel chipset inside, like I mentioned. You can, you have the Radeon Pro 580 with 8GB of VRAM or 4GB of VRAM, depending on the way you want to go. And you're still maintaining that front-facing, FaceTime camera as well, which is really nice as well. The only thing is, though, that if you're comparing this thing against like the current generation of M models, like the Mac Pro or something, the 2017 Mac is not going to hold up that well against those ones. On top of that, when you're looking at some other Macs and other devices, those other devices are definitely probably going to be better overall than this model. I'm going to be honest, the current generation, even the M1 model, there are reasons why that might be better than this one. But I will say, for the most part, this type of Mac is actually pretty insane. I think Apple did a pretty good job with this one. Although it wasn't like this big massive redesign or anything like that, there's still lots of advantages and features of buying a 2017 iMac in 2024. The big thing to keep in mind though is that this thing isn't really supported with software, like it's getting some software updates, but it's not going to be lasting that much longer. So I would hate for you to go and buy this particular Mac and then you to go ahead and not get any more software updates. So that might be the biggest reason why I wouldn't recommend buying this thing anymore. But there are still lots of reasons why I would recommend buying maybe some other device. But there's still lots of reasons why I'd recommend buying like the current generation Macs, like the M models and those ones. So take it as you will, but that's kind of how I see this particular iMac holding up in 2024. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.